Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to the Heart, Mind, and Mechanics Business Coaching playlist on the From Career Woman to Business Owner channel. Hi, I'm Wendy Byford, and today I'm going to be addressing the third question in our series of what's holding you back from being your own boss. And that question is, how would I fund it? Now, many of us as career women have been in a position where we've got those golden handcuffs, right? The company has given us a company car perhaps, or they're paying for mileage, and we've got a good salary, and we've got a 401k, and we've got all of these benefits, and we've got health insurance and all of those things that add up to this huge package. I know that happened to me when I was in corporate America. And as many times as I thought about leaving, those golden handcuffs kept me there. And so you probably are in that same position if you are a career woman in corporate America, or maybe you have a slightly smaller package if you're working for a small business. Whatever it is that you're doing, there is a possibility that you're in a situation where you can't afford to leave and go to something else that doesn't pay you immediately. And let's be honest, if you're building your own business, there's going to be a time when you are not going to be able to take a salary. You're actually building the business. And even though you may be profitable, you're putting that money back into the business to grow it. So what is it that you do? Well, some of the things that I'm going to suggest really depend on a number of things. They're going to depend upon, how big your network is. It's going to depend upon how risk tolerant or risk averse you are. And it's going to depend upon how confident you are that the business that you want to build will be profitable and will support you in the future. Now, if it's something that you're thinking about, well, I can try it, but it may not work, then some of these things you're probably not going to want to do because there's just too much risk involved. But if you are sure that what you're doing is spot on, that you can probably get some clients immediately because you're going to be doing something similar to what you're already doing in corporate America or in your small business job, then you may want to take a little bit more risk. And we'll talk about that as I go through these different options for you. So let's get started. I have 8 different things for you to think about. So first thing to think about is, depending upon how old you are, you may have retirement funds. And if you have changed from one corporate job to another, for example, then you may have rolled over a 401k into a self-directed IRA or some other place that allows you to access those funds. Now, before you do anything, please pay attention. You must talk to your CPA before you touch those funds. You want to know if you pull money out to live on in order to get your business started, what happens? What happens if the business is successful? What happens if the business is not successful? Is there any way of paying that money back if you hit the jackpot and you're successful within 60 days, for example? So you want to make sure you understand all of the parameters before you touch that money. But if you do have retirement funds available to you and you think that you're going to be able to make a lot more money in your own business, and not only make up those funds in retirement funds, but more than that, because you can have a solo 401k or whatever else it is that you want, then that is an option. Just make sure that you speak to your CPA and that you feel confident that the business that you're building is actually going to be profitable and you are going to be able to put away retirement funds to make that money up and more. Okay, next thing. A lot of people think, well, there's tons of grants out there. Why don't I just go and get a grant to start a small business? What I have to tell you is that while the government tells you that there are grants available, I have not come across one person that has ever successfully applied for a grant. I don't know what the method is for actually being successful in this area. And I've talked to people who actually specialize in putting in these forms and getting all the information, putting it together and applying. And even they have said that out of 70 or 80 times that they've applied, they've not had one person actually make it through the process. So I don't know what kind of issue is going on with these things. But just to let you know, if that's what you think you're going to do, you probably need to have a backup plan. And I'm being very realistic here. Okay, next thing is some people sometimes think, well, why don't I just get an investor? Somebody who likes the business, maybe is knowledgeable in this area, understands that it's going to be really profitable, and they're going to lend me X amount of money in return for X percentage of the company. Now, this is a decision that you really need to think about. I wouldn't be jumping up and down about it, first off, without going through the pros and cons of partnering with an investor. Typically, an investor will not tell you how to build the company, how to run the company. They're simply putting their money in, and they're expecting to get some kind of a payback. And they may understand this area very well, and maybe they even would be a mentor. And if that's the case, then you may want to think about this seriously. However, just bear in mind that if you give away 10% of your company for any reason, in order to get money, in order to start the business and grow it, then if there comes a time when you want to sell that business, this person may be a holdout. This happened to my sister-in-law several years ago. They had grown a really profitable consulting business, and they were in a position to sell it. And they had a 10% investor who had lent them money when things were a little tight. He did not want to sell the business, and they basically rode the elevator all the way down to the ground, to the point where they had passed their point of profitability. The business was no longer saleable, and there wasn't anything they could do, because that person at the time when they could have sold that business did not want to do it. They were stuck. They couldn't sell 90% of the business. The person wanted the whole business. So just be very careful. And if this person understands that at some point in time you may want to sell the business, and that he would be outvoted by you, for example, so that you could sell 100% of the business, and he can be a mentor for you, then that's something that you might want to think about. Now, if you decide to take on somebody like this who will be a partner with you, please go to your attorney and have a very specific operating agreement written for your limited liability company or bylaws for your corporation that allow you the flexibility not only to run the company the way that you think it should be run, but also to sell the company at some point in time if you wish to sell it, whether or not your investor agrees. That's going to be really important, so that you're not stuck in the position where you could actually sell your company quite comfortably, except for the investor who's the holdout. Okay, so that's another option for you. Another option is partnering with somebody. Now, sometimes what happens is somebody actually wants to actively be in the company with you, but they're not in a position to leave their job yet either. And so what you decide is that person will continue to work, put money into the company so that you've got some money to grow the business at least, and maybe, take out a couple of $1,000 a month to live on. But that person's putting money in, and their intention is to be a full partner and work with you in the company when the company is up and running. Now, just be extremely careful again with this kind of scenario, because what happens sometimes is the person changes their mind. Now, if that's the case, you need to have an out where perhaps the money that they put into the business is converted into a loan. They get the money paid back, but they're no longer a member of the LLC, or they're no longer in a shareholder in the corporation, that the company belongs totally to you, and their money is simply converted into a loan that will be paid back. And again, if you decide to do this, make sure that you sit down with an attorney to go through all the pros and cons and get in place an operating agreement or a set of bylaws that will protect your interest in the event this person changes their mind. It's really important that you do that, but it is an option. So investor or partnership, those are options where you really need to sit down with an attorney. Okay, bank loan. This is this is something that people sometimes think, well, I'll just get a loan for starting a small business. Now you can go to the Small Business Association and apply for a loan. And sometimes you can get loans through that association, and they have lots of really wonderful mentors. And so this is a viable way for you to get money to start your business. A straight bank loan, you would have to borrow the money in your own name with your own personal guarantee if they were even willing to lend the money. They will not lend the money to a business that is less than a couple of years old and has not been profitable that whole time. So getting a bank loan in the name of your business is not going to happen. But if you go to the Small Business Association, there may be ways for you to borrow money to start a business, and they're the best people to help you through that process. So that's another avenue for you. Angel funding. Angel funding is like investor funding, except these people don't necessarily know what you're doing. They don't necessarily understand what you're doing. They're going to invest on the promise of getting a certain percentage interest back. And so they're not really good for startups because they're probably going to want something like a 10% interest on the money that they lend. And you haven't even started up. You can't tell whether or not you've got a viable business to pay that money back. So even though sometimes people will say, oh yeah, there's angel investors out there, that is probably not an area that you want to go. You may want to look at something like friends and family, where you get a loan from friends and family and you don't have to start paying it back for like 5 years. So you've got a chance to really build the business up and then pay that money back. So if that's the case, make sure that the promissory notes that you put in place with your friends or your family protect both you and them. They need to understand that they are investing in a business that may fail. You need to understand that you are taking on a loan that does need to be paid back. And there's different ways to do this. If your LLC or corporation borrows the money, then if the business fails, then the money doesn't get paid back. Your company goes into bankruptcy and that's it. If you are taking the loan in your own name, then even if the business fails, you are responsible for paying that money back. So make sure that everybody agrees to whatever it is that's going on and you get the correct paperwork drawn up by your attorney. Next, and this is what I have done always, regardless of the business that we've set up, we have bootstrapped the business. And what that means is that we have paid for setting up the business a little bit at a time, so that as we've needed to have a website, we've saved up and then we've got the website built. If we've needed to have certain software, then we make sure that we've got enough money coming in to do that, that the business starts on a shoestring. And basically, as it becomes more profitable, we put the money back into the business so that it could pay for software and equipment and all the other things that were required, even hiring our first employees. Now, what did that mean? It meant that when I built a 7-figure business, for the first year, I didn't take a salary. I had enough money set aside that I could actually live frugally, very frugally, my husband and I, for a year without having to take a salary. Now, you may not be in that position, and if you're not, then bootstrapping may not be the best way for you to go. You may have to look at one of the other methods that we've talked about until you get to a point where the business is able to pay you enough that you can go full-time and grow the business. And then as it gets to a point where it can pay you and pay for upgrades, it's then bootstrapping itself. It's paying its own way, if you like. So those are the methods that most commonly you'll come across for building your business. So if you have it in yourself that you really, really want to start a business, you've got this thing that you want to get out in the world, you are confident that you can make this a really profitable business, you're not totally risk averse, then these are some ways that you can actually answer the question, how could I fund this business? All right. Just remember that any business is not going to be profitable enough to pay you consistently, ongoingly, if you like, immediately. You're going to have to build into that, even if it only takes 2 or 3 months. If you're a coach or a consultant and you have people already lined up, then you may be able to start out the gate with some money in your pocket. However, just be aware that until you get that marketing stream set up so that you've got a constant stream of potential clients coming in, that you may have some money, no money going on. And you want to make sure that you're able to stand that kind of cash flow. The primary reason that businesses fail is not because the idea that they have isn't good. It's not because the people don't work hard. It's because they run out of money. Cash flow is king. So you want to make sure that when you start your business, you're in a position to have that cash flow, and that you don't put yourself in a position of not having any money until that money starts to flow in. Okay, that's it. Hope you got a lot from this video. If you did, please remember to hit subscribe and tell other people about these videos. And if you would like help in setting up your first business and going through all of the process of getting clarity on what you're going to do and for whom you're going to do it, and all of the other questions that we have in our first series, then please go to www.wendybyford.com/explore and let's have a chat. Not every person is good for every coach. Not every coach is the right person for every one of you. So we need to find out whether or not we've got a good match. And to do that, we need to have a conversation. So just go to www.wendybyford.com/explore and let's talk. Okay, everyone, I will see you on the next video. Take care.